There is an old story about a man who believed that every silence needed to be filled. When people spoke, he answered quickly. When people disagreed, he defended himself immediately. When someone gave advice, he explained why they were wrong. When he felt uncomfortable, he spoke even more. He was not a bad man. He was intelligent. He was energetic. He had a sharp mind and a strong voice. People often said he knew how to speak, but very few people felt truly heard by him. In conversations, he waited for his turn more than he listened. In arguments, he wanted victory more than understanding. And when he was afraid, he hid behind words. The man believed silence was weakness. To him, silence meant you had no answer. Silence meant you had lost. Silence meant others could dominate you. So he spoke. He spoke when he was angry. He spoke when he was uncertain. He spoke when he should have listened. He spoke when his heart was asking him to pause. At first, people admired him. They said he was confident. They said he was persuasive. They said he could defend himself in any room. But over time, something changed. His friends grew tired of explaining their feelings. His wife stopped sharing her thoughts. His younger brother avoided difficult conversations with him. Even the elders in the village began to smile politely and say less when he arrived. One evening, after a long argument in the marketplace, the man returned home proud of his words. He had answered everyone. He had left no insult unanswered. He had proven his intelligence in front of many people. But when he entered his house, there was no peace inside him. His chest felt heavy. His mind was still fighting. His words kept echoing in his head. He sat alone in the dark and asked himself a question he had avoided for years. If I always win with words, why do I feel so alone? The next morning, he walked to the hills outside the village. There, people said, lived a wise old man who rarely spoke. The man did not understand how someone could be respected while speaking so little. So he went to find him. Not to listen, but to ask him why silence had such power. The path to the hills was quiet. Too quiet for the man. As he walked, he repeated what he wanted to say. He prepared his question. Then he prepared another question. Then he prepared arguments in case the old man disagreed. By the time he reached the small stone house, his mind was already full of words. The wise man was sitting beneath an olive tree. In front of him was a simple wooden table. On the table was an empty bowl. The man bowed quickly and said, "Master, I have come to learn why people respect silence." The old man looked at him calmly. The man continued, "I do not understand it. In my village, people say silence is wisdom. But if a man says nothing, how can anyone know what he thinks? If a man does not defend himself, how can he be strong? If a man does not answer, does that not mean he is lost?" The wise man said nothing. The man waited. The silence made him uncomfortable. So he spoke again. "I'm not afraid of words," he said. "Words are how we show intelligence. Words are how we protect ourselves. Words are how we make others understand us." The wise man still said nothing. Then slowly he picked up a clay jar filled with water. He poured water into the empty bowl. The bowl filled halfway. Then he continued pouring. The water reached the edge. Then it overflowed. Water spilled across the wooden table and fell onto the ground. The man stepped back. "Master," he said, "the bowl is full. It cannot receive more." The wise man stopped pouring. For the first time, he spoke. "So is a man who never stops speaking." The man frowned. The wise man placed the jar down. A full bowl cannot receive water. A full mind cannot receive wisdom. A full mouth cannot hear truth. The man looked at the water dripping from the table. The wise man continued, "You came here with a question. But before your question could breathe, You filled the room with your own answers. The man felt his face grow warm. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to explain. He wanted to say that he was simply passionate, not foolish. But the old man raised his hand gently. "Do not answer yet," he said. The man closed his mouth. The silence returned. This time, it felt different. Not empty. Heavy. Alive. The old man pointed to the bowl. "Words are like water," he said. "They can nourish, they can clean, they can give life, but when they have no measure, they flood everything." The man looked down. For the first time in many years, he did not know what to say. And for the first time, this did not feel like defeat. The wise man stood and began walking toward a narrow path behind the house. The man followed. They walked without speaking. At first, the silence irritated him. He noticed every sound, the wind moving through the olive leaves, the distant song of birds, the sound of his own steps on the stones, the rhythm of his breath. After a while, he realized something strange. The world had not been silent. He had simply never been quiet enough to hear it. They reached a small cliff overlooking the valley. Below them, the village was waking up. Smoke rose from rooftops. People moved through narrow streets. A shepherd led his animals across the hillside. The wise man sat on a flat stone and motioned for the man to sit beside him. After a long pause, the old man said, "Tell me what you hear." The man listened. "At first I hear nothing," he said. "Listen longer," said the wise man. The man closed his eyes. After a moment he said, "I hear the wind. I hear animals. I hear people far away. I hear my own breathing." The wise man nodded. "Silence does not make the world empty. Silence reveals what noise has covered." The man opened his eyes. The old man continued, "It is the same with people. When you are always speaking, you do not hear what others are really saying. You only hear the beginning of their words before your own thoughts interrupt them." The man remembered many conversations. He remembered his wife pausing before speaking. He remembered his brother lowering his eyes. He remembered friends saying, "Never mind," because he had already begun to answer. The wise man said, "A man who cannot sit with silence cannot sit with truth." The words entered him slowly. The old man picked up a small stone from the ground. "When someone insults you," he said, "silence gives you time to decide whether the insult deserves your energy." He placed the stone in the man's hand. "When someone advises you, silence gives you room to see whether there is wisdom inside the words." He picked up another stone. "When someone suffers, silence allows their pain to speak without being interrupted." The man looked at the stones in his hand. The wise man said, "Most people do not listen. They reload." The man looked at him. "They do not receive the other person's words. They prepare their own." This is why many conversations are not conversations. They are two people taking turns being unheard. The man felt something inside him soften. He had always thought silence made a man invisible. Now he began to understand. Silence could make a man present. Before sunset, the man prepared to leave. He thanked the wise man and said, "I understand now. I must speak less." The old man smiled. "That is not the whole lesson." The man paused. The old man said, "Silence is not wisdom by itself. A silent fool is still a fool. Silence becomes wisdom only when it is filled with attention." The man listened carefully. The old man continued, "Do not use silence to punish people. Do not use silence to appear superior. Do not use silence because you are afraid." He pointed toward the valley. "Use silence to understand before answering. Use silence to calm the fire before speaking. Use silence to hear what your pride would have missed." The man nodded. Then the old man gave him one final instruction. For the next 7 days before answering anyone, take one breath. 1 breath? Asked the man. 1 breath, said the wise man. Long enough to let wisdom enter before your tongue leaves. The man returned to the village. At first, people noticed something strange. When someone challenged him, he did not answer immediately. When someone complained, he did not interrupt. When his brother spoke, he listened until the end. When his wife shared her thoughts, he did not correct the first sentence. He simply took 1 breath. At first, the silence felt uncomfortable. It felt as if he was losing control. But slowly something changed. People began speaking more honestly around him. His wife's voice became softer, but more open. His brother stopped avoiding him. His friends no longer prepared themselves for battle every time they disagreed. And the man discovered a truth that surprised him. The less he rushed to speak, the more weight his words carried. When he finally spoke, people listened. Not because his voice was louder, but because his silence had made space for meaning. One evening, he sat alone outside his house and watched the village grow quiet. For the first time, silence did not feel like emptiness. It felt like peace. And perhaps this is the lesson hidden inside the old story. Not every thought deserves to become a word. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every silence must be filled. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is pause, to listen, to breathe, to let the noise inside him settle before he speaks. Because words spoken too quickly often serve the ego, but words born from silence can serve the truth. So the next time you feel the need to answer immediately, wait. Take 1 breath. Let silence do its work. Then speak only if your words are wiser than your silence. If this story gave you something to think about, subscribe to Wisdomary Tales for more stories that make you think.